A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
United States Armed Forces Radio Service. Tonight we present The Prodigal Son, a drama based on a parable told by him who lived the greatest life ever lived. In the olive grove near the shore of the Sea of Galilee, a great crowd has gathered to find comfort in the Master's words. One man, dirty and disheveled, looks around to see if others notice the marks left by chains that were once affixed to his wrists and his ankles. He searches their faces, hoping to find there some sign of forgiveness. But they draw away from him. Alone, outcast, he turns to leave. Suddenly there is a stir. The Master will speak. The man stops. As if to plead for this ragged outcast, the Master begins to tell a parable.
A certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me."
You want to take your inheritance now, my son? Why? What's the trouble?
No trouble, Father. I just want my portion of the family wealth, as I said.
But aren't you happy here on the farm? Don't we prosper? Wait. I know. You've quarreled with your brother Asa again.
Asa and I don't get along too well, that's true. But that's not the trouble this time.
Then what is it? For 4 generations now our family has worked this farm, and now you want to leave?
Because a man's father and grandfather were farmers doesn't mean he has to be a farmer, too. This life isn't for me, Father. I want to get into trade and commerce.
Is that a better life? Do tradesmen eat better food or drink sweeter milk? Do they breathe better air?
In the city, a man makes his money more easily, and he makes a good deal more of it. That's the kind of life I want. And if I can have my share of the family's wealth, and I only want the part that's coming to me, I can go into a business of my own.
Take my advice, son. Keep your share of the farm. Years from now, you'll see the wisdom of my advice.
Father, I won't be denied my chance. I want the money.
I say it's a mistake. Son, the land is the only thing. It's here to feed you and your children after you. You can trust the land. Stay here. Work hard. In a year, this whole idea will be forgotten.
You think it's an idea that just came into my head today or yesterday? No, Father, I've had it a long time. Ever since I was a child and watched the caravans pass on the road. Ever since I was old enough to know that the whole world isn't just wheat fields and pastures. I can't forget it. Not in a year, not in 10 years. I'm determined to go to the city and live my own life.
I see. I never imagined you felt so strongly about it.
Well, I do.
All right, then. After all, can a man be a tyrant to his own son? You may have the money.
Thank you, Father. And you won't regret it. I'll go to Baghdad. I'll succeed. One day I'll have a large business of my own, and I'll be rich. You'll come to live with me. You'll never have to work again.
I hope all you say is true for your own sake. I wish you only the best, my son. Be successful. Be Be great. Be all the things you dream.
Rebecca! Rebecca!
Yes? Who's calling? Oh, Buddha. The way you're dressed. It's up for a long journey.
Yes, Rebecca, it's finally happened. I'm going.
Oh.
You don't like the idea. There are tears in your eyes. Oh, really, it's nothing to cry about.
Why not? When you get to Baghdad, you'll forget me.
How could I ever forget you?
I've heard about the women of Baghdad.
There's no woman in Baghdad could compare with you. Don't you understand, Rebecca? I've got to have my chance. But don't worry. When I'm established, I'll send for you. We'll be married. Let me go and wish me luck.
All right, Peter. I wish you luck. And I hope I see you again. Yes.
My friend, you like our city?
What? Why do you choose to speak to me, sir?
The way you're staring at everything, I can see that you're a stranger here in Baghdad. You like what you see?
Oh, yes. It's fabulous. Wonderful. We never had anything like this back where I come from.
I dare say. After all, Baghdad is Baghdad. When you've said that, you've said all there is to say. By the way, my name is Micah, and if you wish, I could show you around our city.
Well, that's very kind of you. Though why you should trouble on my account.
Oh, think nothing of it. The pleasure I get from seeing people enjoy themselves in our city is reward enough for me. Now then, what's your taste? Food, parties, a game of chance, perhaps? Or are you one who appreciates the beauty of women?
Oh, I have no time for any of that.
Oh, you don't?
No. I'd like to see the marketplace, where commerce is carried on. You see, I'd like to find a place where I could get work.
Work?
Yes. I must get experience before I go into a business of my own.
A business of your own? Oh, that's a wise lad. But that takes money, you know.
Oh, I don't have to worry about that. I've plenty of money.
Indeed. Well, how fortunate for you, my friend. First, then, the marketplace where we shall observe the pursuit of commerce. Although other young men in your position might be more interested in an attractive face, a woman's intriguing eyes. There are many exciting women here in Baghdad. Yes, but then you did say you wanted to see the marketplace. Well, come along, my fine young friend.
Oh, the excitement of this city. The color, the people.
That's the way Baghdad is every day of the year. And the women. Men come from all parts of the world just to admire our women.
And I can see why. Look, that woman there. Isn't she lovely?
Well, now see here, lad, if you stop and stare at every woman we pass, we'll never get to the marketplace this afternoon. Or perhaps it might be better to let that part of it go until morning, when you're fresher and your mind is more alert.
I am rather tired from my long journey.
Yes, then I'll tell you what we'll do. This night we'll spend in one of those gay parties for which Baghdad is famous. We'll let it be my welcome to you. What do you say? Food, music, beautiful women,
But tomorrow you take me to the marketplace?
Of course. Now come along with me and I'll show you what enjoyment can mean in fabulous Baghdad. Down, Judah! Smile! This is a gay party! Be gay!
Yes, Micah. It's even finer than the last party we gave.
The women are more beautiful, the food more delicious, the music even finer. I told you I'd show you how life is in Baghdad. Now here, let me fill your cup again.
Oh, wait, Micah. I keep thinking.
Thinking! At a time like this, who wants to think? Here, drink up.
But tomorrow we do go into the marketplace. We put it off long enough.
If you insist, but that's tomorrow. Come try some of this fine bird. Ah, here's tender, succulent meat for you. Go on, taste it. And then later, I have a surprise for you.
Micah, that girl there, is she a friend of yours, too?
Certainly, these people are all friends of mine, else they wouldn't be here at our party.
You'd like to meet her? Oh, I would.
Of course. I'll call her over.
May I talk to you?
What do you want here now, innkeeper?
Well, sir, this party is so bright it will be costly. I must have some assurance that it will be paid.
You hear the man, Judah, worrying about his money. Well, show him. Go on, pay him.
Pay him?
Why, well, what is it, Judah?
But I paid for the last party. And the one before that.
Oh, come, lad, don't get scribble about money. Go on, pay the man. And meanwhile, I'll go and invite that young woman over here to sit with us. I'll be back, Judah.
Well, young man, I'm waiting. My money.
Oh, yes, of course. Here, let me get my money, Pop.
Well, Judah, better luck next time.
Well, that's over with. I might as well go home now.
Well, it's your own fault. I told you not to stop playing. Why did you?
But I'd already lost over 600 pieces of silver.
When your luck is bad at the gaming table, that's the time to keep playing. Bad luck must change sooner or later. Well, come on. Yes, if you'd done as I said, you could have won everything back in the next hour or two and probably won a great deal besides.
But what if I'd lost?
I'm telling you that sooner or later your luck would have had to change.
And if it hadn't?
Well, then we'd have come back another night.
Not if I'd lost and hadn't been able to pay.
Hadn't been able to pay? What are you talking about?
Well, Micah, I guess I can tell you. After all the parties for your friends, the costly food and drink, it's gone.
Gone?
My money. All of it's gone.
Oh, I see. Well, that does put a different complexion on things.
It means I'll have to find that job in the marketplace first thing in the morning. You'll come along with me. Point out the best merchants to me, won't you?
Tomorrow morning, first thing? Well, it's been a late night. Dawn's almost breaking. I don't think I could be up that early.
I'll stop by your house and wait you if you wish.
No, I don't think you should bother.
What do you mean?
Well, now that you're thinking of going to work, you and I won't be seeing much of each other, I'm afraid.
Why not?
Well, a man who works hard by day spends his night sleeping. With me, it's quite the reverse. You'd better forget about my company for a while.
I think I'm beginning to see. What you really mean is that now the money's gone, you don't want to have any more to do with me. Is that it?
I didn't say that.
You don't have to, I know. After all, I can't pay for the parties and the fine meals and the kind of living you and your friends have been enjoying at my expense the past few months. That's it, isn't it?
Well, now, there's no need to become angry, lad. After all, you did have fun, didn't you?
And I paid for all of it. You never once paid for anything. As a matter of fact, I'm beginning to understand a great deal. That money. The money I spent so freely, foolishly. Even that money I lost tonight. I think you get a part of that, don't you? Well, don't you?
Now, you won't serve any good purpose by making such accusations, and you certainly won't accomplish anything by getting angry. I warn you.
It's true. All of it. You've made a fool out of me.
You make it sound like a difficult job. Well, believe me, it wasn't.
Laugh at me, will you? Will you wait get away with this? You won't.
No, you don't. Little fool. Green as the grass on that farm he used to talk about. Well, I'll just let him lie here in the street. Come dawn, someone else can find him and worry about him. So, you've said at last.
Huh? Where am I? What happened?
I found you this way on the road, unconscious, bleeding, without a coin in your purse.
You searched me?
Why not? I said to myself, Meshach, search the man. If he's got any money, treat him well, and he'll give you a reward for your kindness.
To tell you the truth, when I found you had no money, I was tempted to leave you, blood and all.
But you didn't. You took care of me. Why?
Because I felt sorry for you. And when I can feel sorry for a man, he's lower than I am. And that's pretty low, my lad. Now then, what's your name?
Judah. I come from close by Hebron. My father has a farm.
Yeah. And you came to make your fortune in Baghdad.
Yes. How did you know?
You're not the first who's been swindled in this evil city of ours. Well, now that you've learned your lesson, dust off your clothes and go back to Hebron and be a good little boy from now on.
Go back? I can't.
Why not?
The money. My share of the money is all gone. I've wasted it. Money my father worked long and hard to make. How can I go back and face him now? What will my proud brother Asa say? Yes, I can imagine that. Oh, I was going to do a great thing. Build a great business. Be a successful merchant. Famous. And all I did was... But never mind.
Oh, that's the way of you. You're no different. So?
Well, no. Who'd give me a job the way I look? I need food to eat, a place to sleep.
Well. It looks as though Meshach the pig tender is about to rise in the world.
What do you mean?
I shall have me a fine assistant. If I can talk my employer into hiring you.
Oh, would you?
It's not much of a job. The food's bad. Your living quarters will be no better than a pigsty. But it will keep you alive.
Oh, as long as I can keep body and soul together, I won't mind.
Well, on this job, your body will have contempt for your soul, and your soul will get sick of your body. But it will keep them together, for what that's worth. Come along, assistant. Well, don't stand there, Judah. Pour out the slop for those pigs.
Yes, Meshach.
Look at them eat. I've often thought a pig is better off than a human. They don't care what they eat. We care, but we eat it just the same.
You're right, Meshach. Food that our employer gives us is no better than the pigs get. How do you stand this?
Oh, I'm an old man. I'm tired of fighting the world, so I sit with the pigs, and it gives me time to think. Yes, when you get to my age, food makes little difference. But you, lad, you had a hungry look ever since you've been here.
And my belly's felt empty every day for months. I've asked for more food. All he says is if you don't like it, leave. There's no place to go.
That's right, boy. Times are bad.
Why, back on my father's farm, every servant has enough food. Bread and meat and cheese and milk to drink. My father's servants don't live and eat like pigs.
Ah, but his son does.
Yes. But tell me, Meshach, if you had a son and he did something wrong, would you refuse to see him again?
If I had a son, if he did something wrong, who can answer a question like that?
Would you even refuse to hire him back as a servant?
From pig tender to servant? That's quite a step up in the world, my boy. Forget about it.
But I could make him a good servant. I know all about the farm. I could work long and hard. I'd earn everything he gave me.
If you were a stranger, your chances would be better. You haven't forgotten what you did. Why should your father forget? No, Judah. You're a pig tender now, and that's what you'll always be.
But why?
Because it's the way of the world, that's why.
But if I humbled myself.
Humbled yourself? A pig tender humbling himself. Even the pigs would laugh at that.
I could tell him that I know now that I sinned against him. Wouldn't he understand?
You'll find in this world that when you're down, no one has any use for you. You're down to stay, my fine friend. Now and for the rest of your life.
Down? For the rest of my life? No, Meshach. No! I will rise and go to my father. I'm glad that you finally agreed to come back with me, Meshach.
Believe me, it's for only one reason. You'll need a friend after what you're about to find out, my boy.
Perhaps. When I traveled this road before, I had a fine camel on my coat. It was new and clean then. To think that I was the respected son of a good farmer little more than a year ago. Now I come back a poor, ragged, filthy tender of pigs.
We'd better get off the road if we don't want to be trampled by that camel.
Yes, and hurry. He's coming fast.
You there! You too!
Yes? What do you want?
You look familiar. Do I know you?
I don't think so.
I thought at first. Say, aren't you Judah, the son of Samuel? Well, aren't you?
Do I look like I've ever been in this part of the country before?
Well, maybe I have made a mistake. But then maybe I haven't. If I haven't, well, they'll all have a laugh over this.
He recognized me. You know him? Of course. He's Simeon, a farmer in this part of the country who's always disliked my father. Oh, this will give him a chance to make a laughing stock of my father and me.
That's so important.
Maybe we ought to turn back. I shouldn't disgrace my father in his old age.
Father.
Yes, Asa, what is it? What's the trouble? Have the cattle broken out of the North Field again?
No, Father. This time it's something else. Simeon just rode by the field while I was sorting the sheep.
Yes, and what did he say this time? Another of his insults?
It was an insult, all right. But this one may be true.
What do you mean by that, Asa?
He said he saw two filthy, ragged men coming toward our farm. Passed them on the road.
The roads are free, and if some ragged men were heading this way, who can stop them? What business is it of mine?
Well, he said one of the ragged men was Judah.
Judah? It can't be. Judah's dead. Didn't I go into mourning for him after we hadn't heard from him for a year?
We never heard that he was dead.
Yes, but if he were alive...
If he were alive, it would be just like him to come back and try to get more money. I wanted you to be prepared for him when he got here. We couldn't take advantage of you again.
Judah. Alive.
What are you going to do?
Oh, I'll go. I'll find him. Come with me, Asa.
Please, Father, don't hurry so. You're not young anymore.
I must find him, Asa.
We don't even know if it is Judah. Besides, Simeon didn't say he was sure they were coming to our place. I think we should turn back.
Turn back? How can you say such a thing?
How? What has this brother of mine done that we should go seeking him?
Wait. There are two men. Simeon said there were two of them, didn't he, Asa?
So those men.
One of them is about Judah's size. A little thinner, but it looks like it. Wait! You men! Wait!
Please.
Don't try to hold me back, Asa. Stop, please. It's very important. At least turn around and let me see your faces. Please turn around.
All right. I'll turn around. Father.
Hilda. Look, it is Hilda.
So it is.
Hurry, we must meet him.
You can run to meet him, but not I. After all.
I shall go to him. Hilda, my son. My son. Father. My son. Hilda. Hilda, let me look at you. I know how this must hurt you, Father. I don't look like I did when I left here. But I can go. No one would ever know I was here. Oh, my boy, you do look thinner. Is that all you see? Look, my clothes. So ragged. I disgraced you. Your ragged coat. Does that worry you? Here, take mine. No, Father, please. Take it. And my ring. I want you to wear it. I want them all to know you're my son. Here, let me place it on your finger. There. You see? And when we get home, we'll kill a fatted calf, the fattest in all my flocks, and we'll celebrate it.
What on earth are you doing?
Asa.
Father, I thought you put your own coat on him. And then your ring. What does this mean?
Asa, I am welcoming back my son.
After what he's done?
Father, I came back to be a servant, not to claim the right to be your son. I'm not worthy of that.
Can you deny me the right to call you son if I want to?
I don't deserve it.
You deserve what is in my heart to give you.
He went away. He wasted his money. And now you give him a great welcome. But me, I stayed home. I worked hard. Who does me any honor?
Asa, there isn't anything I possess that doesn't also belong to you. But can you deny me the right to celebrate the return of the son I thought was dead? No. For after all, isn't he still my son? Come, Judah. Come home with me. And bring your friends. Tonight we'll all celebrate. Rebecca will be there. She's been waiting for you, son. Yes. This will be a day of great joy. My son has returned at last.
The man in ragged garments looks up now toward the master. He straightens his shoulders. He forgets his tattered clothes and the marks that chains have left on him. As he looks about him now, the faces are no longer stern and forbidding, but there is softness and compassion there. And the ragged man feels himself once again welcome among his brothers as he hears the master say,
So I say unto you, that likewise joy shall be in heaven over one sinner that repents, more than over 99 just persons who need no repentance.
Been listening to The Prodigal Son, another episode in the greatest story ever told from the greatest life ever lived. greatest story ever told was a presentation of the United States Armed Forces Radio Service, the voice of information and education.
The second station of the cross. Jesus is made to carry his cross. Inside the vaulted cathedral, there is a profound stillness, intensified by the occasional shuffle of feet, the murmured prayer of a petitioner before the Holy Virgin, the whisper of a woman saying the rosary. A group of people, led by the priest, quietly move a few steps and make their second stop in a pilgrimage, likened unto that which took place in Jerusalem many centuries ago through the sorrowful street.
We adore thee, O Christ, and we bless thee, because by the holy cross thou hast redeemed the world. Consider how Jesus, in making this journey with the cross on his shoulders, thought of us and offered for us to his Father the death he was about to undergo. I repent of having offended thee. Never permit me to separate myself from thee again.
Now Barabbas, thief and murderer, stood in a dark corner, anxious to see the man whose death the crowd had demanded instead of his own. The soldiers were crowded about Jesus and were still mocking him, kneeling before him and shouting, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Across the courtyard, Pilate, about to enter the archway, heard the shouts. He turned and called for Marcus, the centurion, to come to him. Apparently he was giving some final instructions, for he was pointing to the three men about to be crucified.
Marcus, I almost forgot about the signs to be nailed to the crosses.
I had in mind to order them, Procurator.
The people must be made to understand the nature of the crimes as a reminder not to do the same.
Well, two of them are thieves, but...
Yes, Marcus?
I'm not quite clear about the sign for the one called Jesus. Shall it be treason against Rome?
No, Marcus. The sign you put on his cross will read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews."
Permit me to say, Procurator, such a charge may not be clear to the people.
Perhaps not, but it'll be most distasteful to the high priest.
As you wish, Procurator. Now, how about the clothing to be worn on the cross?
They will be permitted a breechclout.
You wish all to be executed at the same time?
Surely. Put the king in the center position, a thief on either side.
Very well. Any special orders?
No. Carry out those already given quickly. Get that man away before Claudia Procula sees him. Claudia?
Here, on the balcony.
Claudia, how long have you been here?
A long time. A very long time, my husband.
Then you saw...
everything. The jeering and the mocking and the scourging. It was horrible.
You should have stayed in your room.
I forced myself to watch, to count every lash. 40 save one.
But why torture yourself in this way?
If that was torture, what was the man under the lash enduring?
Well, better try not to think about it.
Oh, Pontius, why? Why did you do it?
Please, Claudia, let's not discuss state
and
matters.
After I begged you in my note to have nothing to do with him.
Because of a dream? Empires aren't governed by women's dreams, my dear Claudia.
I didn't beg you to rule the empire because of my dream, but to save the life of a single man. A man in whom you yourself found no guilt. Why? Why did you do it?
Claudia, when your message came to me, I was hesitating. I decided on the spot to follow your advice, have nothing to do with him. Then, when I was told he was out of Galilee, I turned the whole affair over to Herod. You saw what happened.
He was back in less than an hour.
I questioned him privately. I wanted to help him. But the man himself was most uncooperative. If I could only have gotten a simple denial out of him, but he kept saying his kingdom was not of this world.
Well, isn't that why your spies reported that the man was no threat to Rome? That he was always talking about the kingdom of heaven?
Yes. But I just couldn't make the fellow understand his position. When I put it to him directly and asked him if he didn't know I had the power to set him free or to crucify him, he looked at me as if he were pitying me for my ignorance and said, "You have no power whatever to harm me unless it's given you from above." And mind you, that was right after I had him scourged.
Oh, Pontius, don't you understand what he was saying to you?
I'd just given him a taste of my power. I thought his reply impertinent.
To me, it means that only God had the power to crucify him, not you.
Then all I can say is that God demanded his death. For I did everything I could to save him. Claudia, at one time, I had the feeling the man wanted to die, or felt that he had to die for some strange reason.
Did he revile you for what had been done to him?
Strange you should ask that. He seemed to understand my position and said those who surrendered him to me, I suppose that's what he meant, they were guilty of the graver offense.
Who did surrender him?
Primarily it was the Sanhedrin, the high priests, but later it was everyone.
I don't understand you.
Claudia, we know the man had a large following, many among them who were greatly obligated to him. Where are they now? To this moment, you are the only one to my knowledge who has raised a voice in defense of the man. Why did these followers permit the arrest? Why didn't they storm the Sanhedrin and take him away?
Well, perhaps they were afraid. After all, when the cohort went with the temple guards, they'd assume Rome authorized the arrest.
But I gave them their chance to speak today. Deliberately, I asked them if they would rather release the notorious murderer and robber Barabbas or Jesus called Christ. They chose the murderer.
Oh, Pontius, you did that deliberately.
Of course. I was sure they would ask for Jesus' release, but they screamed for Barabbas.
But why in the name of Jupiter did you order the scourging?
It was the last desperate attempt to save him. I thought once they looked on him after that ordeal, they might be moved to pity and say he suffered enough.
I'm sorry for you, Pontius.
I didn't care a fig for their howls about blasphemy, but they knew that too. So they harped on treason. Pilate's no friend of Caesar. Caesar is our friend, our only king. And Herod. Herod had his spies all over Jerusalem, anxious to run to Tiberias with tales of my mismanagement of Judea. The crowd was shrieking crucifixion of a man who couldn't or wouldn't help me save him. What was I to do?
I don't know. I just don't know.
So I did try to remember your dream.
My dream is coming true. It was that Jesus was dead on a Roman cross.
Procurator!
Oh, what now? What is it, Marcus?
The high priest objects to the sign.
What's the matter now, Caiaphas?
Pilate, the sign Jesus bears is false.
How so?
He is not the king of the Jews.
Didn't you yourself bring the charge that he had made himself king of the Jews?
He claimed it. We did not admit it. As he goes through the streets, many will read the sign. They will say this man was executed because he is king of the Jews.
When you came to me, you had the mob cry out, "Caesar is our king. This man sets himself up as a king against Caesar." Isn't that treason against Rome?
We beg of you, Pilate, change the sign.
No. Marcus, you will not only write the sign in Hebrew, but also in Greek and Latin, so all can know the crime for which he's executed.
Pilate, no!
What would you have it written, high priest?
Not that he is king of the Jews, but that he claimed to be.
What I have written, I have written. Marcus,
You will proceed with no further delay. Yes, Procurator. At once.
This is mockery. This is unlawful. This is...
Stand aside, High Priest. You heard the order.
You had better go to your room, Claudia, and not watch this.
I choose to watch.
Very well, but it'll be unpleasant.
Look at the man. How do they expect him to carry that heavy cross when he can hardly stand on his feet? Isn't there anything you can do? Can't you revoke the penalty?
It has to go on now to the end. I was a fool. I let them trap me.
If you feel that way, then stop it.
Claudia, I can't change my mind again. What will they think of me? This is on their heads now. I've washed my hands of it.
He stands there all alone, separated from his followers.
It's the other way around. They separated themselves from him.
They followed him when he was healing the sick, bringing people back even from death.
How do you know these things?
Alexis, your interpreter, told me. Where are they now, all those he helped? They followed him willingly enough this far. You think there'd be one, at least one, to help him carry the cross?
It's not permitted. Each man must carry his own. Marcus is about ready. Are you sure, Claudia, you wouldn't rather go inside?
No.
Get those crosses on your backs. Jesus will go first. The two others will follow. 3 guards will attend to each prisoner. Darius, you will ride ahead on horseback. When we start, form a box around the prisoners and use your spears, if necessary, to keep the street clear.
Water. A drink of water.
No, we haven't time for that.
Centurion!
Now what do you want? Can't you see I'm busy?
You must hurry. In a few hours, the Sabbath will begin.
I don't care anything about your Sabbath. You're the one who's delayed us with your prattle about signs.
It's not lawful for men to hang on the cross during the Sabbath.
Well, take it up with Pilate. Now, will you stand aside so we can get started?
Centurion, I'll report you.
One side. Line them up. Get those crosses on their back and tie their wrists so they can't let loose of them. Now, hurry. The sooner the thing is over, the sooner we're back to the barracks. Come on. That's no way for a king to buckle under a timber. It's only 30 pounds.
The man's not a king. You've no right to say it.
Yeah. Don't you see his crown? Don't you see the sign? He's a king. It says so in 3 languages, High Priest.
We will follow after you. We will explain to the people the signs are but Pilate's mockery of our religion and our tradition.
Go and wash your hands. Leave me alone.
Pontius, why did you call for a basin of water and wash your hands?
It's a Jewish symbol.
What does it mean?
As Alexis explained it to me, it's a ritual they followed in the event of a mystery murder. The ancients of the town nearest the scene of the crime had to kill a heifer and wash their hands over the animal, saying, "Our hands did not shed this blood, nor did our eyes see it."
And that was your way of telling them that you were innocent of what's going to happen?
Yes. I used the symbol to make them aware they must assume full responsibility. And they understood.
Can you be sure? Pontius, if something terrible comes of this, how can you be sure that they won't blame you?
How can they? For when I washed my hands of it, they all cried out that his blood be upon them and their children.
By that, did they mean they would take full responsibility? Or did they...
Or what?
Did they mean by calling down such a dreadful curse that they too were innocent of this murder?
That
thought hadn't occurred to me.
Well, you must find out. Ask Alexis.
Why is it so important to you, Claudia?
I don't want you to be blamed. You say that you're innocent, and the priests say they're innocent. Well, then who is responsible?
Ah, yes. Who is responsible? That, like what is truth, is a moot question. At all events, the man himself cleared me.
No, my husband. He said those who surrendered him to you were guilty of the graver offense.
And so we come back to the question of who surrendered the man.
And you implied the guilt might rest on everyone.
In the larger sense, yes.
Then you, the high priests, the followers who separated from him.
Yes. And one of his own disciples, whom I'm told led the guards to where he was sleeping, some fellow by the name of Judas.
Isn't this a strange new idea for a Roman procurator to advise?
Don't bait me, Claudia. I'm uneasy, I admit it. I do feel a bit guilty. Perhaps that's why I say others must share it. Yes, if they believed in this man, they could have drowned out the cries for Barabbas. Where were they? Where, Claudia?
I don't know.
I'll tell you where. In their homes, in their camps, eating their morning meal, or else gathered about talking things over.
Oh, surely not those who believed in him.
Why not? The 12 men closest to him scattered and fled. And the others? Oh, yes. They believed him to be the Messiah. That's the irony of it.
Please explain what you mean by the irony.
He's the Messiah. So what does it matter? He can save himself. Because men are powerless to hurt him. That's the irony. Because the divine are immortal, they must test him by death. That's the one infallible test. If he dies, he's a liar. If he doesn't, he's divine. Now, every last man's waiting to see what will happen on Golgotha.
And what will happen?
He will die. And they'll go back to their homes and tell themselves how prudent they were in keeping silent. Right now, Claudia, I find myself wishing it were true.
Wishing what were true?
What they claimed and said he claimed.
That he is the Son of God.
Yes, and all the rest of it, that he is the King of the Jews. That would be an irony for you. Pilate, procurator of Judea, wrote the truth on the sign. Oh, wouldn't the whole sorry lot of them wail and beat their breasts and be forever sorry?
Oh, Pontius, you shouldn't be so bitter against the people.
A moment ago, you remarked how alone the man was. There was pity in your voice. Now you're excusing the people.
I think it's because of what I've witnessed today that I feel pity for everyone. For all mankind.
Even for the procurator?
For you especially.
Thank you, Claudia. I'm truly sorry it happened. I need your pity and understanding, for I was weak. Weak with self-confidence. I thought I could handle the priest, but... Well, what's the use of reliving it? And if you don't mind now, I would like to...
Procurator!
Yes, Marcus, what is it?
We are ready. We await your signal.
Pontius, free the man. You were right to change your mind.
Not again,
Again,
Claudia.
yet, and again, and yet again when you've made a mistake.
Pilate! We await your signal.
You will proceed, Marcus.
Oh, Pontius.
Forward!
I'm sorry, Claudia.
One word from you was all that was needed to save him.
And I asked him for that denial which would save himself, and he refused to give it.
Now more of my dream comes back to me. Some of the things I saw today were in the dream, and so mingled I don't know which is real and which is the dream. I knew I was struggling to prevent his death, but a force pressed against me from all sides, and the voices whispered, "Be silent, Claudia. This has to be. It was foretold."
No doubt this was caused by your talking with Alexis about Jewish folklore and ancient prophecies.
Perhaps. He's told me much since we came here. It has to be. As if a power greater than yours was shaping events.
Best leave it at that. It has to be. Unless...
Unless?
He is the Son of God.
You too, Pontius.
Like so many others, Claudia, finding comfort for my blunders by saying, if he's the Son of God, nothing I did will harm him.
But look at him, down there with the weight on his shoulders, painfully putting one foot ahead of the other. He bleeds like any other man. Look at him, and then tell me whether or not that man cannot feel pain.
Claudia, please, I've had a very difficult morning. Let's not discuss this any further. Are you coming in?
No. I'll look on. At least for a while.
Now the distance from the Praetorium to Golgotha was about 1,000 paces by the shortest march, and the streets sloped upward slightly. People gathered on the roofs of houses and shops and in the streets as the procession moved very slowly because of the weakened condition of Jesus, who had difficulty placing one foot in front of the other as he staggered from side to side under his heavy timber, which threatened at any moment to send him headlong into the dust. Ordinarily, a longer route would have been taken, so that more people might see the punishment for crimes. But the Sabbath was close at hand, and Caiaphas had prevailed upon Pilate to have the prisoners reach the place of execution as quickly as possible.
Good people, pay no attention to the sign. Pilate ordered it written to mock us. He knows it's false. Centurion, you must move faster.
It's the king who's slowing the procession.
Don't say that. Faster, can't you go faster?
The man's doing the best he can.
But it's the 5th hour. Soon the Sabbath will be upon us.
Well, that's your doing. You should have let Barabbas carry his cross.
Oh, a curse be on you and all Romans.
Get back now. Get back, all of you. Guards, keep the street clear.
Pontius, come quickly.
What is it?
Look below in the street.
Huh? What's the matter with Marcus? They haven't moved 30 paces.
It's Jesus. He's staggering under the cross. It's too much for him. He falls. The cross is too heavy. Oh, why doesn't someone help him?
It was the 5th hour, and the sun was beating down upon the prisoners. Jesus had fasted since the night before, and was weak from lack of food and the unmerciful beating. He had not slept since his arrest, and had been on his feet for almost 12 hours. And prodded by the soldiers to walk faster, he stumbled and lost his balance. And he staggered from side to side in the narrow street as he tried to keep from falling. People scrambled out of the way, for they did not want the heavy cross to fall on them. For it was an instrument of death devised by the Gentiles, and they would be defiled if they touched it. And though there were many who professed to believe in Jesus. They had now separated themselves from him, and they stood silent.
The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with the National Council of Catholic Men, presents the Catholic Hour. The Catholic Hour opens with a group of the Paulish choristers singing in Gregorian chant the Lenten hymn, Attende Domine. Monsignor Fulton J. Sheen of the Catholic University of America will now deliver the 12th in his series of 17 addresses on the general subject, peace. His discourse today is entitled, The Divine Cost of Stopping the War. I present Monsignor Sheen.
Friends, in this broadcast, we enter into the very heart of the question, Why does God not stop this war? And the answer is that the divine cost of stopping this war would be the destruction of human freedom. This needs some explanation. Let us begin with this fact. This is not the only kind of a world God could have made. He could have made a world without freedom. He could have so fashioned us that we would have been good by the same necessity the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. But God willed not to make a mechanical universe peopled by automata. Rather did he choose to communicate to us something of himself, namely his freedom. Not in the same degree of perfection, of course, but enough of it to say no, which would give a charm to a yes when we freely chose to say it. In other words, God chose to make a moral universe where characters would emerge by the right use of freedom, a universe like a nation, where there would be patriots because men might be traitors, a universe like a battlefield, where there would be heroes because men might be cowards, a universe like a church, where there would be saints because men also might be devils. There is no epic for the certainties of life. There is no lyric without the suspense of sorrow and the sigh of fear. No watchful love hovers over the invulnerable. No crown of merit rests suspended over those who do not fight. Take this quality of freedom away from man, and there would be no more reason to honor the fortitude of martyrs and soldiers than to honor the flames or the bullets which send them to their death. God willed to make a moral universe of praise and blame, but this could be done only by making men captains and masters of their own fate and destiny. And there is one word which sums up God's plan in making this world, and that is the word love. God made each heart capable of love, but love implies a choice. Love is not only an affirmation, it is also a negation. If I choose this, I necessarily reject that. A heart that loves must be a heart to give or to keep. Because, therefore, God willed to make love of him possible in this world, he had to make us free. But if he made us free to love, he had to make it possible also for us to be free to hate. The universe thus became populated with free wills, little gods, each armed with a reflection of God's freedom. And God pledged himself, after giving us that freedom, never to destroy it, regardless of how many petulant souls would shriek against him, "Why does God not stop this war?" God could challenge us, overrule us, permit us to be visited by the consequences of our misdeeds, but he would never destroy that great gift of freedom. Man could, if he so wanted, go on defying God for time and for eternity, subvert his moral law, blast the cosmos, and even break his heart. And still, God would not take away freedom. In this sense, the decree of creation to make man free was also the decree of Calvary. For a free man that could break God's commandments could also crucify him. And not even then would he take away freedom. But in his goodness, he would make man's misuse of freedom the felix culpa, the occasion of offering himself as a holocaust of love, not to force men back to him, for his hands and feet were nailed, but to entice them back by a revelation of love greater than that which no man hath, that he lay down his life for his friends. Now that brings us to this question. Could God stop this war? Most certainly God could. But if God were ever to be untrue to himself or to us, what would God have to do? He would have to destroy our freedom. That would be the divine cost of stopping this war. We say we are fighting for freedom. Then why do we ask God to destroy freedom? And that is precisely what we ask when we say, why does God not stop this war? We say we are fighting to destroy dictators. Then why do we ask God to become a dictator? We say that dictators are wicked because they would destroy the last vestige of freedom on earth. Then why do we ask for a dictator in heaven? Shall we one moment rage against earthly dictators because they would trample liberty underfoot, and then in the next moment shriek for a dictator in heaven who would do the same thing? Certainly, if we had to choose, it would be far better to live under earthly dictators for a few years than to have a dictator in heaven who by one blast of omnipotent power could take away that quality in us that makes us the paragons of creation. Fortunately, however, we have no choice in the matter. God will not destroy freedom. He will not be a dictator. And that is why God will not stop this war. Where then should the blame for war be placed? On God's gift of freedom, or on our abuse of freedom? Have we not been too proud to admit that we might be sinful? When the world goes wrong, we blame it on systems, tyrannies, governments, unsound economics, and bad plans, but never on our own will. The real evil in the human situation lies in man's unwillingness to recognize his dependence, his finiteness, his creaturehood, or the possibility that there exists something greater than himself. Sin is the abuse of freedom. And that is why the modern man who denied sin found himself in a world of dictatorship. Even the idea of hell is bound up with freedom, because hell means responsibility. Deny hell, and you deny responsibility. Deny responsibility, and you deny freedom. We began this broadcast by asking, why does God not stop the war? Now the question is turning around. Why do we not stop warring against God? This war is not of God's arbitrary making. It is the effect of our own abuse of God's gift of freedom. We must therefore not expect God to suspend the operation of his laws to protect us from their consequences. God will not suspend the law of gravitation to protect the life of a man who throws himself off the top of the Empire State Building. Neither will God suspend the operation of his moral law to immunize man from a war that is born of the abuse of freedom and of the de-Christianization of individual and social life. Why should we always think of the dictators as the creators of the world's woe? They are not its creators. They are, rather, the creatures. Dictators are like boils, superficial manifestations of an inner rottenness. They would never have come to the surface if there had not been the proper conditions in the world from which they came. It would therefore be a very fatal mistake to think that if we could get rid of the dictators, this world of ours would be lovely and rosy. And we assumed that if we could get rid of the Kaiser, the world, and the last World War, we made that live in peace and prosperity. Kaiser. But we have another World War in 21 years. We removed the boil, but we kept the infected bad blood. We rid ourselves of the symbol of the world's wrong, but we did nothing to correct the wrong. And what assurance have we now that if we defeat these wicked dictators, the world will pursue justice and righteousness? Unless we cut down the evil tree that begets this evil fruit, we shall go on having more wars. To change the figure, it will do us no good to treat the world for a fox fight, if, like the Spartan youth, we are going to continue to carry a fox in our blouse. This war, did we know it, is really only an episode in the working out of a great truth. It is not the great truth that is an episode in this war. And that truth is that this war is not a sign that men are with God. It is a sign that men have been against him. What I'm trying to say is that God did not start this war, and God will not stop it apart from our free cooperation with his law, which is the perfection of our freedom. And when the world is crashing down on our heads, it's really silly and stupid to say that the major frustrations of life are economic or political, or that if we had another system of economics or another kind of government, all would be well. It is not the systems of the world that have gone crazy, but our hearts. Economics and politics upset the world because evil and selfishness and godlessness first upset the hearts of economists and politicians. And to assure ourselves that the major ills of our time are not economic, we need but inquire, who are the disillusioned people of the modern world? They are not the poor. They are not the economically dispossessed. Rather, they are they who possess, who have power, who are selfish, satiated, and who need blaring orchestras without melodies to drown their self-consciousness. there is 1,000 times more disenchantment among the intelligentsia than among the poor. Something else is wrong, then, besides economics. Our souls have lost God. Now does the appeal for a daily holy hour begin to make sense? You know that in each broadcast I appeal to Jews and Protestants according to the light of their conscience to spend an unbroken hour a day in prayer and meditation for our country and for the peace of the world. I ask Catholics to do more than this, because we Catholics believe that our divine Lord is really and truly present on our altars under the species of bread. And to all Jews and Protestants and Catholics who desire a holy hour booklet to assist in this national act of regeneration, we will gladly send one free. The reason of the holy hour is to make us conscious that sin's the source of the world's confusion, that there must not only be an army which will defend us against external enemies, but also an army to overcome evil internally by reparation and by the rededication of our lives to God and to His divine Son. We should enter into this national act of reparation and prayer humbly, as our Lord entered into the Garden of Gethsemane. Innocent though He was, He entered that garden not as one subject to human brutality, not as rebellious against the injustice of the world. Rather did He see in it an occasion to satisfy divine justice by taking upon Himself the sins of the world and thus fulfilling His Father's will. And so should we enter into this war, not regarding ourselves as innocent victims of other sins, for we are all sinners, but as transgressors, assuming part of the blame for the sins of the world. If there's anyone who thinks he is good, let him realize that he lives in an evil world, and therefore he must redeem it. If, however, we feel ourselves as guilty because we abuse God's freedom, then we have need of making atonement for ourselves. In either case, we are under God's purposes, humbly submitting ourselves to His will, either to repair the broken fences of our neighbors, or else to replant our own wrecked vineyards. Like unto the master in the garden, we will not say we are under a violence imposed by men, but under the sweet compulsion of furthering the cause of God. And in our hearts we will feel less that we are suffering from man's injustice than from a free cooperation with God's justice for the redemption of the world. For when evil men came with swords and clubs to apprehend our Lord in the garden, He turned and said to them, "This is your hour, and the power of darkness. Your hour, and all that you can do with it is to extinguish the light. Your hour, and all you can do with it is to turn the world into Stygian blackness. Your hour, with the seeming power of authority, but which in reality is only the power of darkness, the power to do evil. And we are living in such an era of the world's history now. and hour of darkness, where evil has its way. And how shall this darkness be ended? Not by the sword alone, even though justice sometimes must be armed. Evil can be overcome only by matching an hour of darkness with an hour of watching. And that is why our Lord in the garden, when he turned to Judas and his followers and said, "This is your hour of darkness," said to his apostles, "Can you not watch with me 1 hour?" He suggested that the holy hour of watching is the divine remedy for the hour of darkness. Shall we foolishly believe that there is any other escape? Satan has his hour, but God has his day. And that day can be ushered in only by watching through the night. Will you watch 1 hour with him? God love you. O Lord Jesus Christ, who in thy mercy heareth the prayers of sinners, pour forth, we beseech thee, all grace and blessing upon our country and its citizens. We pray in particular for the President, for our Congress, for all our soldiers, for all who defend us in ships, whether on the seas or in the skies, for all who are suffering the hardships of war. We pray for all who are in peril or in danger. Bring us all, after the troubles of this life, into the haven of peace, and reunite us all together forever, O dear Lord, in thy glorious heavenly kingdom.
The address you have just heard was entitled "The Divine Cost of Stopping the War," and was delivered by Monsignor Fulton J. Sheen of the Catholic University of America. This was the 12th in Monsignor Sheen's series of 17 addresses on peace. A copy of today's talk, or of the Holy Hour booklet described by Monsignor Sheen, may be obtained by writing to the National Council of Catholic Men, Washington, D.C., or to the station to which you are now listening. The Catholic Hour continues with Osgood's arrangement of the Sanctus. Next Sunday at this time, Monsignor Sheen will deliver another address in this series entitled Trust in God's Plan.
This is the hour of St. Francis. Do you realize that everything you do, every word you say, makes somebody better or worse? St. Francis of Assisi realized that a long time ago, and he put into the rule he set down as a pattern of life for his third order this counsel: let them strive to lead others by good example. As a matter of fact, that's what he did, and is still doing. Although in his humility he never thought of himself as inspiring anybody. After 700 years, he is still leading thousands to the better life. It's the truth that everything you do either lifts somebody up or drags them down. Take the case of Dr. Joe Walton. This is a true story as told in the Reader's Digest by Octavius Roy Cohen, and brought to you now by the Hour of St. Francis. Up until 5 years ago, we always had just one doctor in Watertown. The sign in front of his house read, Joseph H. Walton, M.D. But everybody called him Uncle Joe. He was that kind of man, and Watertown's that sort of place. Quiet, friendly. Uncle Joe had brought most of the Watertown babies into this world. He was a part of the town we just took for granted, like the post office. And when we heard that a new doctor was coming to town, we started wondering how it was going to change things for us and for Uncle Joe. When this young Dr. Donald Kent came, just fresh out of uniform, he stayed at the hotel while his house was being fixed up. Uncle Joe came to call on him the first day. I was in the lobby when they met, and I couldn't help listening in. Dr. Kent was short and blond, and he had kind of a stiff way of talking. I'm Joe Walton.
How do you do, Doctor? It was good of you to call on me.
Oh, I just dropped by to say hello and tell you that this town needs a bright young man with bright young ideas. If there's anything I can do, just call on me.
Well, that's very gracious of you, Doctor.
Gracious, I'm darn happy to see you here. I've been working like a horse for the last 30 years. Maybe now I'll have time for a fishing trip once in a while.
It was a surprise to everybody in Watertown the way Dr. Kent built up his practice. The young folks especially seemed to go for him. He made Uncle Joe look as out of date as a horse and buggy. We old-timers noticed other differences, especially in the way Dr. Kent talked to his patients. I remember one time I came down with an awful pain in my stomach, and my daughter called in Dr. Kent.
What is the specific location of your pain, Mr. Banks?
Well, location's in the stomach, but the specific...
What is the nature of the pain? Intermittent or persistent?
All I know is it hurts all the time. Can't sleep.
When did you first note its presence?
Well, sitting in the front room after supper, getting ready to...
Describe the nature of your evening meal.
It was a good supper, but I haven't had a mouthful since. We had boiled turnips, fried sea bass, and cabbage. Say, Doc, have you been fishing for bass in William Creek yet?
No. Is there any history of abdominal disorders in your immediate family? What was the nature of your father's last illness?
Well, Doc, I'd say he should have died from eating pickled pig's feet, but he's still alive and kicking. Father of 14, too. Say, Doc, how come you're not married? Nice-looking young fella like you.
I'll leave you a prescription. Take it as directed. If pain persists, let me know. Good afternoon, Mr. Banks.
Well, the next time I got that pain, I called in Uncle Joe.
Well, Sam, you do look kind of peaked. Hurt bad?
Oh, it's killing me, Uncle Joe. I don't know what it came from. I was just sitting down reading the paper after supper.
After supper, huh? What'd you have for supper?
Oh, we had lamb stew and creamed potatoes. Cabbage.
Sam Banks, didn't I tell you 20 years ago that cabbage was poison to you?
Well, yes. Doc, I felt fine before supper, then afterwards I got this pain.
Gas.
And,
all you got's a bellyache. Only trouble with you is that you like cabbage and it don't like you.
There was another thing about Dr. Kent that the old-timers kept shaking their heads about. He let everybody know that he didn't want to be called unless there was a real emergency. You had to swear on the book that you were dying before he came out at night. One day, Uncle Joe came to see Dr. Kent about this night call business. I got the story from Lizzie Caldwell, who is Dr. Kent's nurse.
Look, son, folks hear about things accustomed to this sort of treatment. You've got to be more available.
Doctor, you know as well as I do that 99% of these 3 a.m. emergencies aren't emergencies at all. I can't keep myself in a state of physical exhaustion, catering to fancied illnesses at fantastic hours.
Oh, I know most of them just think they're going to die, but that's the whole point, son. They're scared to death just thinking about dying. They need you to tell them they ain't.
I'm not unsympathetic, Doctor, but I don't propose to make myself the slave of my patients. I have to reserve some time and strength for research and study. I owe that much to my patients who are really ill.
Look, son, I got a suggestion. You've already got more practice than you can handle, so how about when you get night calls you don't want to take, how about letting me handle them for you?
Why, that's unheard of. You're the senior doctor. I ought to be taking work off your shoulders, not you off mine.
Son, you and I practice medicine differently. I'd like to take those calls. Seems like it'd make us both happier.
Oh, yes. Yes, I suppose it would help you, Doctor. All right. I'll accept this arrangement.
In no time at all, the word got round that if you were Dr. Kent's patient, you wanted a doctor at some time like midnight at 3 a.m., you got Uncle Joe. Night after night, even when the weather was mighty bad, I'd hear his old car rattling around. Lizzie Caldwell told me Uncle Joe reported every case to Dr. Kent, and the young doctor got mad as a hornet every time.
They're just taking advantage of you, Doctor. Calling you clear over to the crossroad because their kid was throwing a tantrum. 5 trips to the Mastersons because they think their baby might arrive early. You are killing yourself.
I kind of enjoy dropping in on folks I'd never get to see otherwise.
Watertown folks built up quite a respect for Dr. Kent, but they loved Uncle Joe. Well, things went along that way until last spring when we had the accident. The school bus turned over while coming back from a picnic. The kids got spilled all over the road. Somebody sent for Uncle Joe, but when he got there, it was Dr. Kent who was straightening out the awful mess. He gave the orders, and everybody, including Uncle Joe, did just exactly what he told.
Keep the women away from here unless they're nurses. Tell them all the children are out of the bus. Mr. Walters, you drive to the nearest phone, call the county hospital. Tell them to send 3 nurses, anesthetic, fracture equipment, and an oxygen tent to my office immediately.
Dr. Kent, can you take Annie next? I can't get her legs straightened out.
Doctor, I'm trying to stop this boy from bleeding. Make her lie down and keep quiet. Put a coat over her. You men, build a fire. Find some more flashlights. Start putting these children here into the cars. Drive them straight to my office. We can't wait for ambulances.
Kent's some darn fool let Miss Roberts see her boy. She's crazy to know if you can do anything for him.
I'm going down with these operative cases, Doctor. You finish up here. There's nothing serious left.
Yeah, but now here, hold on. What can I tell Miss Roberts?
Tell her I'll do the best I can. I haven't time for hysterical women.
What happened to Dr. Kent's office during the next 24 hours, we got from Uncle Joe, when he could stand to talk about that night at all.
That boy did things only a surgical genius would dare do. We had 8 kids laid out in that office. He took one right after another, going just like a machine. Kept it up for 24 hours with no rest and nothing but a few sips of black coffee and a bite of a sandwich. If it hadn't been for him, we'd have been going to 12 funerals instead of to 4. That boy's not just a doctor. He's a genius.
When Watertown finally got over its shock, Dr. Kent was a hero. Folks still didn't warm up to him. He wasn't that kind of a man, but they idolized him. When the Chamber of Commerce got together to name the town's outstanding citizen, the one who gets a silver cup at the annual banquet, there was only one name mentioned, Dr. Kent. The whole town turned out for the banquet. The mayor gave the cup to Dr. Kent with a nice little speech.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everyone.
Uncle Joe, he doesn't even look excited. He doesn't even look happy. He's not the excitable kind, Sam. He's happy, all right.
May I have silence for a moment, please? I assure you that what I did at the time of the bus accident is not deserving of any such credit as you are giving me tonight. Please. In every doctor, there is the hope that if a terrible thing must happen, he can be on the scene to display his own brilliance. There was almost an element of selfishness in what I did that night. Now, that accident was one happening of its kind in a period of many years.
Please, God, it'll be the last one.
But that, my friends, is not what is meant by the practice of medicine. You all know that for more than 3 years, I have confined myself to the more interesting phases of medicine and surgery. I have deliberately avoided as much of the unpleasant work as I could. Dr. Walton came to me with a suggestion that he handle such calls as I was unwilling to take.
I'm used to it.
At first, I thought he might be in need of the extra money he would make that way. I was wrong. Dr. Walton has never accepted 1 cent from me or from any of my patients he has attended. Then, why did he make those long trips at night when he knew that the patient could wait? Why? My friends, I have finally arrived at the answer.
What's he running on about?
When one of my patients called me frantically at night, I failed to realize one thing. That patient was frightened. His family was terrified by something that they didn't understand, and they needed personal assurance. That I persistently refused to give them. And that is what Dr. Walton has always given. He has been the rock to which you have clung.
Everybody gets scared when they're sick. I always do.
From Dr. Walton, I have learned more about the noblest form of medical practice than is to be found in all the books. Dr. Walton has devoted his life to this town, asking no reward, expecting no recognition.
I'll be darned if the boy don't look like he's about to cry.
So, I ask your permission to give this cup to the man who not only deserves it tonight, but who has always deserved it. I wish to present it to Dr. Joseph H. Walton, with the humble wish that someday I may be even half as great a doctor as he is. This cup belongs to you. Take it, Uncle Joe.
Uncle Joe did not get the cup for what he did, but for what he was. His Christian example influenced one man, and through him a whole community. St. Francis of Assisi must love Uncle Joe. Indeed, Uncle Joe in his own way was like St. Francis in his unselfish way of living. And like St. Francis, he inspires us to live unselfishly for God and for our fellow man. This quarter hour has been brought to you by the Third Order of St. Francis.
Spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The eternal light The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light, a new series of programs offered as a public service. This program is prepared under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Chapter 2 is entitled, Emmanuel, God is with us, and is written by Morton Wishengrad. Following the dramatic portion of the program, you will hear a talk by Dr. Samuel H. Goldenson.
Years ago, 38 Jewish immigrants met on New York's Lower East Side to found the Temple of God. This is the story of one of those 38, one who fled the Black Night of German persecution in the first half of the 19th century. We dedicate his story to 6 young men of Temple Emmanuel who in this first half of the 20th century have given their lives in the struggle against German fascism.
Major Albert Wertheim. Lieutenant Richard H. Seligman, United States Navy. Lieutenant Gilbert H. Seidenberg. Lieutenant Alan J. Bamberger. Flight Officer Robert J. Weiss. Lieutenant Peter H. Lehman.
To these 6, with deep reverence, we dedicate our story.
Fronting the Northern Ocean, there is a place near Nordenham where the river Weser spills into the sea. Far below, past Brache and Bremen and Hemelingen, is the little town where I was born. Not much of a town, you'll say, yet large enough for 3 millers to make their flour and 2 brewers to steep their malt, and a few hundred Jews to be enclosed in a ghetto. It was there I was born, and there my father named me Daniel after his father, and there I spent my boyhood. An uneventful boyhood. An uneventful boyhood until one day when my father came home.
Ezra, is that you?
Rachel.
Just in time for potato pudding.
I don't want any.
You're not sick, are you?
Rachel, the armies of Napoleon are in Germany.
Your potato pudding will get cold, Ezra.
Rachel, I said Napoleon.
The way you carry on, someone might think the Messiah has come.
Rachel, try to understand. The French Revolution has come to Germany. The ghetto walls are broken. The whole world is open to us. I can tear off this badge. I can walk freely on a road. I can do anything.
Get excited, Ezra. It makes you sick to your stomach.
I'm not sick to my stomach.
Then why don't you eat your potato pudding?
Oh, Rachel, your brain has turned to potato pudding. Listen, from now on, everything will be different. Different for you and for me and for our children. Different for our people. Rachel, a new world's begun. And it was true. A new world had begun. It was as though the Messiah had come to the ghetto and broken the walls and said, "See, my children, the grass is fresh and green, and there beyond grows a flower. It grows also for you." This is how it seemed to us. And this is how it must have seemed to all the Jews of Europe, liberated by the armies of the French Revolution. It was a happy time, and for my father and mother there was even greater cause for happiness. She's a fine little girl, Rachel.
Your hand under her head more, Ezra.
Am I holding her right?
Yes, that's better.
You know, I think she's not ugly.
Oh, I'm glad. It's a good sign.
Is it?
I think so. And she's born at a good time, Ezra.
Thank God she'll never see a ghetto wall.
I thought of that every moment, Ezra. And it eased the pain. Oh, Ezra, now it's good to be alive. Good to be alive and to be a Jew and to live in Germany.
Yes, it was good to be alive and to be a Jew and to live in Germany. And in the years that passed, there was nothing to mar that goodness. No wall stood beyond our window. No badge was sewed on my father's coat. Esther, my sister, grew and was gray-eyed under her Sabbath bonnet. And then one day when my father was speaking to the burgomaster, who was not an unfriendly man, suddenly the old fear rose like a specter from the ground.
Don't you enjoy my conversation, Ezra?
Excuse me, Herr Burgermeister, I didn't intend to be rude.
What has upset you? All the news is good. Napoleon is beaten. The German states are free again. The Vienna Congress is bringing back law and order. Rejoice, Ezra. The French tyrant has fallen.
Will I also rejoice in the German tyrant who takes his place?
Don't speak nonsense, Ezra. Say what you mean.
Napoleon's fall has been a signal, Herr Burgermeister. A signal for an old evil to begin again.
Ezra, your words walk on stilts. What do you mean?
Are you blind, Herr Burgermeister? They've already begun to shout anti-Jewish slogans in the public square.
Just a few hoodlums. They don't speak for me. They don't speak for any decent German.
I hope you're right. Now, if you'll excuse me, Herr Burgermeister, I want to go home and tell my wife to bolt the shutters.
All right, Ezra, we'll keep indoors.
It's best, Rachel. Daniel, you'll stay close to Esther.
Yes, Father.
Now, let's go to bed.
Father, do you know Latin?
What's that, Daniel?
At school, the older boys keep yelling, "Hiero salema est paradita."
Don't trouble your father, Daniel. Go to bed.
It's all right, Rachel. So that's what the boys are yelling, Daniel?
Yes, Father.
It means Jerusalem is destroyed.
Why do they say it to me? I'm a German.
You're also a Jew, Daniel.
Is that a crime, Father?
Yes, Daniel. In Germany, it's a crime. I'll go to bed. Please don't cry, Rachel.
All right, Ezra. I won't cry anymore.
It's hardest on you, isn't it?
No, Ezra. I can bear it. I think I can bear anything for myself, and I can bear it for you and for Daniel.
But not for Esther, not for the little one.
No. Today she was walking on a footpath. A little girl in a bonnet. Just walking. They told her to walk in the gutter.
That's law and order, Rachel. They were civic-minded. Yes, henceforth, Jews may not walk on the footpath. Even very small Jews.
But how does she offend them, Ezra? She's still a baby.
I don't know, Rachel. I don't know anything anymore.
Bend thy head a moment, Ezra, till the storm is past.
No bending, Rachel. No bending, no bowing, no cringing.
Where are you going?
The only place I can go. A man can't stand alone, Rachel, not in this world. I'm going to take my place with the others. Rachel, I'm going to the synagogue.
I went with my father. They would not let us meet in the old synagogue. It was no longer permitted that Jews might pray above street level. So we came together in a cellar, with one cell-like window staring at the street above us. And the rabbi looked silently at the window and then turned to my father.
I think I don't mind the cellar, Ezra.
But I mind, Rabbi.
You shouldn't. We have gone down to worship in order to fulfill the injunction of the psalmist. Out of the depths have we cried unto the Lord, and he answered us. Will he not answer us again, Ezra?
I don't know, Rabbi. I think perhaps I don't care. There's answer enough for me in the strength of my own hand.
No, Ezra. There is no answer in any man's hands. They are not strong enough to tear down the wall. It must be broken. And your fists cannot do it.
I don't believe it. I don't believe you. You preach peace and there is no peace. You preach rest, and there is no rest. There is no gladness, no honor, no joy in life. It's all illusion.
Ezra, if a man is at peace with God, then he is at peace with himself, and he has rest and honor and joy in life.
Even in the ghetto?
Even in Gehenna. Believe that, Ezra, and do justly and be steadfast, and you will live, Ezra, because that is how Judaism has always lived.
Nothing I can do for you, Ezra.
You misunderstand. I want nothing for myself, Herr Bürgermeister. I ask for all of us.
If I can do nothing for you, I can do even less for them.
That isn't true, Herr Bürgermeister. Perhaps you can't take the badge from my sleeve, but there are other humiliations.
You don't know what you're asking.
I'm asking you to save us from further degradation.
My hands are tied, Ezra.
I see.
I'm sorry, Ezra.
All right.
Listen, my friend, don't you think I understand? But I'm a public servant. I can't defend you.
I don't ask anyone to defend us.
What then?
I ask for someone, anyone, you or the priest or the miller or any villager, anyone, any decent, civilized German. I ask him to say, people, what you do against the Jew is wrong. What you do against the Jew is monstrous and unchristian. That's all I ask.
It wouldn't help, Ezra.
It would. It would help very much to have faith again. Even faith in you, Herr Bürgermeister.
Suppose I told you that I'm terribly sorry for you, yes, and for your people.
Your actions speak so loud I can't hear what you say.
That's unfair, Ezra. You know I'm a tolerant man. You know I tolerate your religion.
What do you mean you tolerate? Who gives you the right to tolerate or not to tolerate?
I don't like your tone, Ezra.
I'm sorry. But I don't like to be condescended to. I didn't come for tolerance. I came as a German citizen, and I asked for ordinary human rights.
There's no point in discussing this anymore. You'll lose your temper, I'll lose my temper. I'm a reasonable man. So the answer is, Ezra, pray to God that things stay as they are. For if they change, it will only be for the worse.
Ezra, don't be distressed. We'll come out of this. Somehow we always do.
You know something, Rachel?
You're not even listening.
I can't abide it anymore.
What? What can't you abide?
Germany, it seems corrupt to the very marrow of the bone.
It's where you were born, Ezra.
It's not where I'll die, Rachel.
Oh, Ezra, no.
Rachel, please don't cry.
You're going to America, aren't you?
There's no alternative.
No. No, there's no alternative. You're going alone, aren't you?
There's money enough for only one passage. You know that.
Oh, it's too much, Ezra, more than I can bear.
Don't cry, Rachel. If you want me to, I'll stay. Please don't cry.
That's why I'm crying. Because you mustn't stay. Because our hope is for you to go. And for you to send for us. That's all the hope we have left.
God bless you, Rachel. The rabbi has promised to look after you. I'll send for you soon.
Oh, Ezra.
Believe me, Rachel, it will be soon.
I think there was something in the American air he loved at once. Something with space and cleanliness in it. And he wrote his letters filled with pride in the new land. And he sent for us with pride. Now that we're here, I cannot tell you how good it is. Nor can I tell you how good it has been these 20 full years in a still growing union. My father and mother are old now, but if I grow old like them, I'll bless the Lord.
Daniel, what's in the paper about Texas?
Oh, they say she'll join the union.
May I live to see it. And who's going to be elected mayor? Mr. Selden or that loco-foco, what's his name?
Well, the Herald's for Selden, Father.
A good paper, Daniel. A very good paper.
Yeah, I'll tell you something that isn't in the paper.
Mm-hmm.
We've organized a synagogue.
Yes?
Taking place on Grand and Clinton, right over a store.
You got a rabbi?
Mm-hmm. We're going to pay him $4 a week. Dr. Leo Metzbacher, he's a fine man.
Very pleased, Daniel.
I knew you'd be. We like the name we've chosen also.
Yes?
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel. God is with us. I like it very much, Daniel.
I hoped you would.
Tell me about this rabbi. Will he preach this Sabbath?
Well, yes, of course.
You think he's found a text for his sermon?
I couldn't say, Father.
Well, then perhaps, Daniel, he won't mind if I suggest a text for America and Emmanuel. Go to him, Daniel, and wish him well. And tell him from me that this land is like an ensign set on a high mountain.
I'll tell him, Father.
And let him look in Isaiah in the 27th chapter.
Yes, Father.
I should like him to read that, Daniel. And they shall come that were lost in the land of Assyria, and they that were dispersed in the land of Egypt, and they shall worship the Lord.
We continue our program with a brief message by Dr. Samuel H. Goldenson, one of the nation's distinguished religious leaders and rabbi of the Temple Emmanuel of New York City. Dr. Goldenson.
It is now nearly 100 years since the little band of Jews hailing from Germany gathered together in their first and very humble place of worship in this city. The establishment of their congregation was to them, as it has been to the children of Israel throughout the ages, the most significant and compelling enterprise. They knew that without the synagogue, as the bearer of the religious traditions of their fathers, they could not realize the best in them and could not play their historic role in the spiritual life of mankind. It was because these men understood the high function of the synagogue in the life of Israel, and also because they were so deeply grateful to find themselves in a land so favorable to their hopes and yearnings, that they named their congregation Emmanuel, God is with us. The name is both a prayer and a resolution. It was a thankful acknowledgement of God's grace and goodness in making it possible for them to live in a land where they could enjoy freedom of thought, freedom of speech, and freedom of worship. At the same time, the name of the congregation voiced their fervid determination to carry the torch of their faith on this blessed land as their forefathers had done in every land and in all ages throughout their long history. To what extent the early hopes and dreams of the fathers of Temple Emmanuel were realized, no one knows. Spiritual endeavors can never be actually gauged and measured. Religion deals with the purposes that cannot be fully accomplished, and with ideals that can never be altogether achieved. Yet it is gratifying to be able to record that from the very beginning, the men and women of this congregation have been leaders in the upbuilding of every Jewish benevolent, educational, and social service institution in this community. Our hospitals, orphan asylums, homes for the aged, relief agencies, cultural centers, and religious schools were all of them, almost without exception, sponsored, supported, and maintained in great part by the men and women of Congregation Emmanuel. Nor did our people give themselves wholly and exclusively to Jewish social and cultural endeavors. Among our members will be found numberless persons who have given of their thought, energy, and substance to the furtherance of every high cause in the life of the community and the nation. These patriotic services and humane contributions to the well-being of our fellow Jews and of our neighbors are not a chance and accidental expression of the generous instincts of the members of Temple Emmanuel. They are rather the direct outgrowth and traditional exemplification of the teachings of the synagogue. Judaism has always insisted that doctrine and deed must go together. It is of the very essence of the religion of Israel that the thought of God and the contemplation of the moral law should issue in right conduct and beneficent behavior. Indeed, the third commandment enjoins that no one shall take the name of the Lord in vain, that is, in such a way as not to make it count for good amid the actualities of life. It is with joy and thankfulness, therefore, that we approach the 100th anniversary of Temple Emmanuel, for we hope and believe that its members will, in the future, give themselves to all manner of good works as they have done in the past. Thus will they maintain the congregation as an exemplar of the faith of Israel and a force for good in our midst.
Thank you, Dr. Goldenson. Beshamru, a selection from the musical literary of Temple Emmanuel, will now be sung by cantor David Putterman and the choir.
Israel, all say
You have just heard the second in a series of programs entitled The Eternal Light, presented by the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. This program was prepared under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. The script was written by Morton Wishengrad and directed by Ira Avery. The music was conducted by Henri Nasco. The traditional liturgical music was sung by Cantor David Putterman and the choir. The talk was delivered by Dr. Samuel H. Goldenson. Copies of today's script may be secured without cost by writing to the Jewish Theological Seminary of America, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This program came to you from New York City. This is the National Broadcasting Company.